Ramblations. 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 Ramblations.
Listener, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to close your eyes. Unless you're driving and you're going to fucking crash your car. Don't do that. But if you can, please close your eyes. And I want you to picture your greatest passion. I want you to think about what your favorite thing is. What makes you tick? That thing that you've been putting so much time and effort into. Now imagine you finally got the chance to showcase that to the world. And you finally got that platform to showcase, man, I've been building up on this. Here it is. Here, world. Look at this. And then on that platform, somebody else who's also, his heart races whenever he thinks about it or they think about it. And it's their passion too. And they whoop your motherfucking ass in it. They whoop your fucking ass. And you're like, damn it. I put all this effort into it. What do? You're going to bust your ass and you're going to meet them again. And you guys fight. And you go for it. And How far are you willing to take this? What is that going to do to your mental? What is that going to do for your motivation? Are you going to continue to fight for it? Are you going to continue to push yourself to be the better of that? Because that's what, you don't know what life is without that. Well, today we're going to talk about what those kinds of situations will do to a person.
Damn. All right. I see. Bringing listener in onto the mentality of what it is. I feel it. If you haven't been clued in just yet, today's focus is going to be on the idea or like the relationship component of rivalry, because we wanted to do more of we wanted to wax poetic, and we both felt like this was something that we could definitely wax poetic on.
Yeah, definitely. We were thinking about different subjects of episodes, and we felt, let's get a little abstract with it. Let's talk about, the human condition. Let's talk about what people, I don't know, what different situations and experiences and emotions people go through. And they came up with rivalries, and I think it's a great place to start.
Yeah, and before we get into the meat or the heart of the situation, let's take a look back a little bit. Usually we'd like to react to like game industry news and stuff like that, but there's a story we're following and it kind of is developing, but we'll get to it when we get to it. But right now I wanted to kind of rewind the clock to last episode and kind of talk about how I think we really expressed heavily how we're in favor of things like Twitter and other companies like, finally unseating Donald Trump from his posting throne. But at the same time, there's a lot of people that have talked about how, there could be concern of censorship. And I think, I wanna make that case as well, because I think it's a very interesting argument. I think that, there is potential for bigger companies to definitely use this opportunity to, tighten up what they can have on their platforms in a way so that they can limit what types of things that their audiences can be exposed to, which, again, good and bad, but definitely can be, I want to focus on the fact that it can be bad, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. And what implications that these things can have.
I mean, it's not uncommon for, I would say, America to react this way in some way, for American corporations to act this way specifically. I'm not sure how much influence they had on things like the Patriot Act after 9/11, but we definitely saw an increase in surveillance and stuff like that. And I wouldn't be surprised if either the companies want to avoid having the government look into how they're, dealing with the content posted on their website, so that they'll try to angle for bills and stuff like that make it so that they can still have ultimate control over what gets posted on their platforms and what information gets dispensed in which way, which I would say is an overall bad, because we want to be able to see as many viewpoints and be able to create as many public talking spaces as possible. It's just that you have to draw the balance in between not being tolerant to intolerance, right? And that's I'm not gonna say that that's easy or anything, but that's the challenge that tech companies, I think, will not take on in the most, like, I think they're gonna go for like a hammer and nail approach. You know what I mean?
Dude, it's Mortal Kombat all over again. This is it's self regulation, right? Back in the 90s, like they're like parents, they're like, oh no, Scorpion just ripped this dude's head off, bro. Like, what is my child consuming? And even before that with D&D, and like they thought it was all satanic and shit. But video game companies, they're under attack by the government, and video game companies said, fuck that, the government is not gonna regulate us. We still want to make bloody things, but I guess we have to brush up our act and do a little self-regulation to make sure that we're still able to make that kind of content and still be able to provide the service that we want to provide. So,
yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but I think the stakes are different because I think that case, like the Mortal Kombat and like how video games came about and were able to self-regulate themselves, is a case of us gaining the opportunity to participate in free speech more freely. Wow, that's a weird statement, but it happened. But like, I think that here it's hard if we want the argument for free speech to be the victor. We also have to be ready to we have to make. I think companies are going to have to figure out a unique situation or a unique solution to how their reporting system works, how their fact checking offices are. I think I had an interesting idea earlier this week because I've been running into this issue a lot through the other types of content I listen to, whether it's other types of podcasts or stuff like that. But I feel like it's very much on top of people's minds because I think that both sides of the spectrum, of the political spectrum, are really worried about like getting themselves censored. Like obviously the far right or like the more like intolerable right has definitely gotten the boot. And again, I still think that's a W in some aspects, but at the same time, like there is still like we could be without knowing it, we could be taking a massive L. You know what I mean?
In the long term, right? In the long term.
Yeah.
Who knows, man? All I know is it's a sticky situation, and we have not heard the end of this. This is going to be something that I think, like what you're saying, is it's going to be something that redefines what the history of the internet looks like, right?
I think whatever regulation we decide to pick up as like a nation will very much define how, like you said, like how the internet functions, but in more respect to how how internet companies respond to situations on their own platforms. And if we think about the large chunks of the internet we use, that includes things like Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, everything that's social media would have to reorient itself to if a new law or new types of surveillance is written upon or tasked upon them to be implemented into their platforms or whatever.
Yeah. We'll see. We shall see.
We'll see. Any other idea? Any other news that you wanted to cover? Because like I know that this was like we talked about this briefly, and I feel like both of us were like, yeah, this is definitely on both of our minds in some way, shape, or form. So I was just curious on like if you have anything else before we roll into rivalries.
Yeah, I want to give it people in case we're the only kind of source of news to bring you up on that situation, but with Dr. Dre and Joseph Capriati's condition that we had spoken about before. Dr. Dre thankfully is out of the hospital, doing well. So that's good. And Joseph Capriati, he posted a couple days ago on Instagram, letting people know he was okay. He's still in pretty messed up condition. Actually, he if you haven't heard the last episode, but he was stabbed by his father. And he's still recovering from his wounds. I want to read his what he said on Instagram because I thought it was pretty powerful.
All right.
Said, I'm alive, and thankfully I can say that. I thank all of you from the bottom of my heart, my relatives, friends, acquaintances, and the many DJs and promoters who have shown me so much affection these days. I am touched. I haven't been able to read and reply to the messages yet, but I will do it in a few days when I get better. Until this morning, I didn't even have the strength to speak, but the doctors say the worst is over now. I ask only one thing if it is possible. I demand a little respect for my father and my family, since neither I nor any of you have the power and the duty to judge what happened. Family dramas are the order of the day, and special attention to the press because, as you all know, the news are often confusing and untrue. I forgive my father for that crazy act, and I pray so much for him. Now I think about healing. See you soon. Some powerful shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. We wish you well. Can't wait for post-corona to...
See another Joseph Capriati show.
Yeah, bro, that'd be a fucking savage in one of those shows again.
I feel like after Corona, you're gonna need to see like the dynamic duo again. You know what I mean? You need to see Carl Cox and Joseph Capriati play together back to back sets.
Bro, I need to see a lot of things, bro. I'm gonna need a hiatus and just fucking lose myself a little bit, lose myself to find myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah, before we get into it, I guess I'm curious on like a small aside, like how you feel about there's a lot of things I've been reading have been pointing out to like after a year or whatever of being mostly inside and stuff like that, like there's gonna be some time to adjust when you finally get back to your regular social circle or whatever. So I'm curious on like how are you feeling that at all? Do you think you're gonna have that experience? How do you think about adaptability when it comes to going back to your regular 9 to 5 and all that other stuff, like whatever you did on your daily life before?
I have thought about this a lot, and actually recently I've been thinking about it. Dude, I really fucking love working from home. Like my introverted ass. Well, no, my extroverted ass. Sorry, I'm extremely extroverted, and I was like, man, this quarantine's gonna suck ass. I bought myself a giant TV, and I was ready to bunker down. I bought canned sardines because I thought the world was gonna end, and like I was just like, yo, I'm about to bunker down. This is gonna, I'm gonna come out like fucking The Shining and shit. This is gonna be interesting, and dude, I've really discovered, the power of that, of just, having your own space. And I wasn't, I didn't really have a lot of space, but I was able to, utilize.
It was
what
still
I had
your own. It was still your own, though.
Make my nook, But I feel like at just going back into society and stuff, like for the most part, where I'm at right now, I'm in New Jersey, and things are like semi-open. You can't go into like a strip club like you can in Miami yet, but like that's crazy, man. But like but things are relatively starting to open, and so at least that semblance of being able to go to a local business and like having that piece of normalcy is, I think it's there, and I think that's the most fulfilling part. And then, going back to the office every day and stuff like that, and just going back to complete normalcy. I don't know if we're going to see that for quite a while. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think if we're just talking about the game industry, from what I know, most everyone that I know, like, I'm pretty sure everyone that I know is working from home, right?
Yeah.
And, like, even people that didn't get the opportunity to work from home before that. So I think that, like, I think the work from home era for all studios has definitely begun, and I'd be really like, if you work at a studio and they like, when things, if they win and if they do go back to normal, which I'm just gonna say when, I don't know why I said if, but when they do go back to normal, I think people should ask themselves like that they have the reserved right to be able to still work from home, because I think that's a positive shift for everybody, because it doesn't matter, like, the working from home is just such a nice feature, because like sometimes you just need to be able to do that. Like maybe you need something done at home and something like that, and you can be able to work. Because I think I'm
Definitely.
I think I don't like working from home in a all 5 days of the week sense, but like there are times where I'm super grateful to be able to sit at home and get something done, and also like worry about something that I have to do here, like whether it's like, I don't know. Maybe it's just because I need to do more cooking. I don't know,
No, yeah, 100%. Like, and just being comfortable in your own space. Like sometimes, like what your ideal work situation is going to be vastly different from everybody else you work with. You know what I mean? Like maybe you just work better in a dark room with some light music playing, not in headphones, just like and
Dude,
it's just
I got a candle now. I light my candle.
exactly, bro. You're gonna do that in the middle of the studio? I don't know, I don't know if that's allowed, but yeah, I really hope
I get
it's a
too worried.
shift.
I get too worried about setting off my fire alarm. I don't want to worry about a studio's fire alarm.
That reminds me so much. I used to work at ArenaNet, and I remember I was a producer of the cinematics team there, and we moved from one side of the studio to another. We found another another nook of the studio. They gave us another section, right? And we were so excited. We're like, oh, fresh place, fresh ideas. We're gonna and man, me and the lead were like, yo, we should sage the fuck out of this, bro. But then we're like, oh, how are we gonna get away with saging this shit? We're gonna let the fire alarm go off, man. We contemplated it for a hot minute, but we were like, dude, if we're the ones that set the fire alarm off, because we tried to sage a new section of the studio.
You gotta just wrap it. Next time, you gotta just wrap it up in tape. You gotta just wrap it up in tape that you can peel off right after.
Oh, dude. Don't try that at home, kids.
Yeah, please don't
lose your job.
Don't. Yeah, we do this because we're not afraid of. I don't even know what to say about that. You know what? If you do it, you didn't hear it from us. There you go. That's all I'm gonna say about it.
There you go. All right, and if you do it to your home work from home office.
Yeah, there you go. Start there first.
Sage that shit up. Oh man.
Anyways.
Yeah. Let's roll into things.
Ramblations.
Yeah, I think before we get into the nitty gritty, I think we got to start with how do you define a rivalry? Because I have a few different how would you define a rivalry, Emilio?
Well, personally, I think that rivalry is a type of relationship that you have with somebody in basically in something that you're passionate about, right? Like something that you're striving for, and it's a human goalpost for you into reaching the highest points of what it is, or excelling in what that is, and something to constantly be testing you to get there. I was doing some research for this episode, and I found a really good article, and they were saying that with rivalries, there's three things that have to be true for it to be an actual rivalry. So it's competition occurs frequently. There's a fairly clear link between motivation and performance. And 3, performance is largely independent, mitigating issues with studying the effects of rivalry on competitive performance in team sports. Wait, nope, that's not it. I was like, that sounds not right. That's hilarious. Hold up. I'll find it, man. I literally.
Well, I mean, because what I was gonna say was that I think when I thought about it a lot, I was more I think rivalry is more of a component of a relationship, right? I think because you can have rivalries in a lot of different types of relationships, but I think it's an important component, and there are some relationships that are defined by just rivalry, right? Even I think the easiest example would be obviously pulling from something like TV, or my favorite use of the rivalry narrative is usually something in sports, and I think that's more adherent to your what you were saying, where you have two people that are competitive and they're constantly competing against each other in informal and formal scenarios, where they these two individuals in their current moments tend to try to bring the best out of each other. And when they do, they put that best of themselves in an antagonizing each other in a way, right? Not super antagonistic, but at least in a competitive antagonistic way. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. I found the 3 factors.
Okay. All right, we're round two of the 3 factors. Let's go.
Fight. Similarity, repeated competition, and competitiveness.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, it's it's exactly what you're saying. It's an antagonistic relationship in the fact that it motivates competition. It motivates you to push forward, and it has to be one that there's a level of similarity enough that like obviously that you're competing for the same thing, and then you could kind of they're like what do you call it, a foil, right? Like a foil character in English is like
Sure.
yeah, like that other character to kind of reflect, to showcase what the protagonist is. So there's a similarity in there. Repeated competition. So you have to it has to be a frequent thing that you're competing against them and you know, going against them, right? And then competitiveness, and the fact that both of you are motivated to best the other person. You are not complacent with the other person, you know, being better than you. So yeah, so there's definitely antagonism in there, and the fact that like everyone's the main character, you know, the main character in their own
definitely
in their own head anime, right? Like so like you know, they're gonna be the antagonist of that story of like, man, like this is the person that is keeping me from reaching where I want to be at. Yeah, and yeah, it's one of those things too that it's like antagonism. It's an interesting word in the fact that they could be different type of antagonists, like the different levels of it.
I think antagonism has like it's a weird word to use because I think it has a much more negative connotation than what I think we're pointing at. Because I think for us, when we're talking about antagonism in this context, it's more just like an adversary, right? Like not even like a adversary that's necessarily like a good bad type situation, but more like they're just adversarial to you in whatever situation you find yourself. It could be as simple as like you're in a work meeting and they give a better suggestion than you do, even though they're a coworker. Or it could be something as like obviously as stark as like, you know, Nazis versus not Nazis.
Or like like there's some pretty heated rivalries, like the national teams of for soccer for Brazil and Argentina. Like when when those teams go at it, like people straight up die. Like the fanaticism and the heated rivalry between those two teams are so big that people die, like straight up get killed.
yeah.
So yeah, it's that level of how far you let it go, right? I was watching a video on Pokemon, and
as an adult does, right?
as a 27-year-old full grown man does. I was watching a video. It was a very good video essay on YouTube, where basically it was about the what made Pokemon so memorable. It's the highest grossing. It's the highest grossing IP in the entire world. And what made those original games so engrossing, and where the new entries are lacking in that exact department, right? And one of them was rivalry, and one of them was the fact that your rival, by then they was like, you know, they had, whenever you pick, you know, like, all right, man, I'm red, and I'm gonna choose Squirtle because that's my boy. I know there's a lot of Charmander and whatever, but Squirtle's my boy, and I pick Squirtle because I'm red. I'm the protagonist of my personal anime, and I choose Squirtle. The blue would always choose what had the type advantage against you, right? And it was.
I thought you were gonna. I swear to God, I thouut you were gonna use a goofy name. Like I definitely named Gary something or Blue. I definitely named him douchebag a few times. Asshole, you know.
Yeah, me too, bro. Fuckface. Fuckface would choose, you know, Bulbasaur, because he was trying to. It was an actual rival. He was trying to best me. He knew
the type advantage, all that other stuff.
And he knew that grass be water. So it became this thing where it was like, all right, like every time you would fight against Fuckface, you knew that it was gonna be a really hard battle. Like it was gonna be something like, fuck, man, am I ready at this point? Because it would be a surprise. You don't know when you're gonna fight him, right? And it's like, damn, like this, I'm about to. This is gonna be difficult because he is my rival. And now with like the most recent entry in Sword and Shield, they're
always your friend. They're always like, well, I think it's still, you could say that there's a rivalry to the relationship, but like I think it's so undercut by this goofy there's goofiness to it. Like I like it feels like a very stark Disney rivalry or something like that. Like I don't even know how to put it, right? Like it feels very stripped down, right?
Their whole narrative arc is about the fact that they're getting over the fact that they stay losing to you. Like they keep losing. Like their whole narrative arc is like, damn, I keep losing you. They keep losing you. And the gameplay backs it up in the fact that now, whenever you choose your starter,
does he choose the opposite? Does he always choose like the worst version of the?
Yeah.
Wow,
So if you pick fire,
I have Sword and Shield. Sorry, I have Sword and Shield. I never even noticed that, and like I don't know. I think there's an interesting. From a narrative perspective, there's something interesting there, right? Like I think it's kind of interesting to think about how, like Nintendo the Pokemon Company is trying to like set up, like I think they want to write deeper into it and make it more kid friendly or something, but I think they actually lose a lot there because the stark simplicity when you play Red, Blue, and Yellow, like I think that makes it much more enticing to get into the game because it's just like you get to name your rival whatever the hell you want to name him. He's not given. I'm pretty sure you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. I
so. And I wouldn't be surprised.
Faces.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Nintendo did it because of kids like us who would call him fuckface. Like I wouldn't be, because knowing how Nintendo kind of operates, like it kind of like you can see that, you know what I mean, right? Like you can see this, like them being like, we shouldn't let kids name them because they always choose terrible names for him, and we're like, everyone's like, it doesn't matter. It's my story, right? Like I think they take away from the RPG elements from it a little bit.
Yeah, where they're trying to tell a more streamlined,
tailored
exactly story narrative. Yeah.
Which I mean, I don't know. I think there are ways to have more colorful rivalries without having to pare it down in a way. You know what I mean? Because I feel like the type of relationship that you have with new rival is much more like, I understand. I guess I get what they're trying to go for, which is like, oh, like this is much more of your anime companion, where he's the type of dude that you're friends with. That's you're trying to have a rivalry with. Yeah. Whereas like Gary or fuckface or douchebag is much more of a like, this is the professor's son. He's this hotshot wannabe. Like I think even like the small bits of dialogue and action, even his pose. Like, do you remember his pose from the first game?
He got like power stance, like hand on hip. Like with like
he's running around with this BDE. He's running around with this big dick energy.
Yeah, hardcore, bro, dude. And in like second generation, dude, he's a fucking criminal. Like he stole his fucking Pokemon from the lab, and like this guy's like, dude, you want to talk? Like the guy was hard as fuck, and it's like now we got this kid that's just really sad about losing to you all the time and shit. It's like, damn. And it's
neutered it
and it's really, honestly, like, so I feel I understand where there's this perception of they're trying to make it more kid friendly, but like you, man, like as somebody, like I my first language was Spanish, right? And like I learned a lot of how to read through playing Pokemon, because
especially RPGs. Like I know a lot of people that I've talked to a lot of people before that have learned English through Final Fantasy, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And like I feel, looking back at it now, it's like, man, like what other life lessons were there? And I feel like the role of the rival, I think teaches something to the kids, the target demographic that they're, for the franchise. And it's like, it teaches them that, there's gonna be these people in your life that are gonna push you to your limits, and it's up to you to rise up to the challenge and take that and make it a healthy thing, right? Like make it a healthy, consistent goalpost of you striving to be, be the very best, like no one ever was,
I mean, I think it's the idea that it's good to have an antagonist in your life in some way, shape, or form, especially for something that you're trying to, like, they will help you foster passion for something that you're really trying to get into, right? And I think I think Pokemon, at least the first two games, is a bigger highlight of, like, they do a good job of highlighting that specific type of relationship, whereas now it's like, I think they've kind of pared down on that a little bit. Like, I think they still want to retain, like, it's good to have people in your life that you're journeying. Like, now it's more about journeying together whereas it was used to be about journeying against. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it was the journeying together with like your companions of like the ones you choose, like your
Uh-huh.
Pokemon and stuff. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Where it's
Yeah.
like, yo, like there's other people also going on that personal journey that are going alongside you, and striving for the same thing that you can all go together. So yeah, that there's positives in that too, of course.
You brought in the second gen games, and I wanted to highlight and not exactly a type of rivalry, but like an antagonist they set up later on in the game. And if you haven't played those games, I guess this is your spoiler alert, but you're like 10 years too late or 20 years too late at this point. But like when you beat in Gold and Silver, when you beat your rival and you beat the Elite Four, don't you get a chance to play against what is essentially you from the first game?
Yeah.
You
fight Red.
And I think that sets up. I think we've described rivalry as a two-person relationship, but I think there is also like man versus himself, and there's a rivalry in that too.
Yeah. It's like, it reminds me of something else I was reading in coming up to this episode. Where there's also the exception of the rivalry where it's exactly that. It's that internal rivalry, and it's they were saying that in our very consumer society that we are, and then we're constantly consuming so much media that it's easy to get lost in everybody else's ideas, and just because you're constantly flooded with them, right? And then they're saying that it's also healthy to kind of try to wean yourself off of that as much as we normally have, and let those internal ideas kind of come out that are not influenced by those other ideas, or like at least like let your own voice come out just as often as you hear other voices too. And with the goal of your personal rivalry getting to the point where your voice is loud enough internally that your ideas are something that no one else can create, right? Like in trying to compare yourself and competing against everything else, we lose what is the most important element, which is our individuality and
your voice.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the most powerful tool. If you're trying to do what other people are doing better than they are, and that's what you're striving for, like you're gonna lose sight of what makes you special, right?
In the great words of Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, I'm doing me better than you doing you.
Exactly, man. Exactly. Just do you, baby. Just do you. You're awesome. You're fucking awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about Pokemon, and I think like I said, like I think old style Pokemon does a really good job of stripping away, like it not only does it give you an RPG sense because you get to name your rival and all this other stuff, and they set it up in a way where like you're always fighting like what is kind of a mirror version of yourself in some ways. I think something like Street Fighter has colorful characters that exist already that have their own built-in relationship dynamics that I've even seen come out when people choose the characters that are antagonized against each other in like the story elements, right? Because if you look at the character of Ryu, who's the main character of Street Fighter, he has his American counterpart who's like a much looser version of him. Ryu's like a much disciplined, much more like he sticks to the playbook type of a person, whereas Ken Masters, his friendly rival, I would say, is much more looser with it, like like even his animations, his move stylings, like the type of moves he has and the modifications they have versus like how, because they have very similar moves. And then even further than that, there is this version of Ryu who's like been consumed by himself and like his nature, his hunting for power, which is Akuma, or Goken if you've played the Japanese versions of the game somehow. And like I think he's the image of Ryu if he were to surrender himself. Like Ken is looser, but much more on the lighter side of things, whereas like Akuma is this pent up rage, this inside, like this part of Ryu that had, if he had given into like the Hado or what is the dark entity in that game, that's what he would become. And it sets up this relationship where like you can see how Ken and Ryu being friends has made them better, but you can also see how like Ryu witnessing himself and like seeing how powerful this dark version of himself is, and seeing how powerful he has to become to try to try to compete against it, and like every time they kind of cross paths in the game, they set up a very like, not only is this person like you but more powerful slightly, but like they've trained harder, they've trained longer. He's the person that killed your master, like that kind of stuff, right? And I think that's a very interesting. Like I think they use the more defined characters to set up a more proper mirror, and I think it reflects itself in the game mechanics as well.
Yeah, for sure. Like I get where you're coming from. I didn't even consider Akuma as one of Ryo's rival, but it makes sense. It's that like that saying where there's two wolves inside you, and it's like, which one do you feed, right? Like that's the one that overtakes, and it makes sense where it's like Ryu's with Ken, it's that lighter side, it's that fighting for humanity, it's that training to be a better person.
Yeah.
Where Akuma, it's like it's because of it's power. It's like, I'm becoming more powerful, more, like, yeah, and it's they're two sides of the coin, and I think it illustrates really well in the narrative of the game of different types of rivals and where rivalry can take you, because like there in versions of Street Fighter where you get evil Ryu, right, and it's where he's become so consumed in himself that he there's a whole other character, and it showcases like, he's more powerful, but I don't know if
he's lost the discipline, he's lost the control, and so like his moves will, especially in the newest version of the game, like Kage will that's evil Ryu, but Kage will his moveset is slightly different enough. Like the way, because I don't want to get into too deep of a conversation of how fighting games has a tendency to take, well, because like there's archetypes, right? And the archetype that Ryu and Ken and Akuma and Kage all adhere to is this thing called the Shoto character. Yeah, where they always have a type of projectile they can use in game. They always have a type of move that'll move them from one side of the screen to the other while attacking at the same time. And then all their standard set of buttons is usually pretty similar. But what they do in Street Fighter specifically is they will tweak those numbers for every single character. Ken is slightly faster than Ryu, but Ryu can hit harder.
He hits hard as fuck.
Yeah, Akuma has no health whatsoever. Like he's very poor using the health pool, but he can hit really hard, and he can set up for devastating types of attacks. And then Kage can also, he can hit as hard as Ryu, but he's a little faster than, like, he's like a weirder, like, he has more teleport, he can teleport around the screen and stuff like that. It gives you a similar set. Yeah, much more like unsuppressed, unchaotic type of thing. Type of a thing. So yeah, I don't know. I think we're kind of centralizing our discussion of how rivalry helps the individuals involved, but I think some of the rivalries that I thought about in the past, and some of the reasons that I think they've stuck with my brain is because I think they, like I said, they've always, there's also, not only is there rivalry as a relationship type or a relationship component, but there's also a narrative, right? And I think you highlighted how, like, in sports, that's a pretty big thing, where a rival between, two cities, two countries can explode out of control with fanaticism, because like people really do feel like they have a stake in the fight. I think even at a like for me, like from a much more games oriented view, you'll see a lot of fighting game tournaments. Again, just leading into what I know, but like you'll see a lot of fighting game tournaments where people will be representing like a play style, or like even like a dojo. That's a really big thing in Japan, where when you get to things like Evo Japan or like bigger, more nationwide tournaments, people are literally representing a whole entire arcade, because that is where they've learned to play a game. And so like when those relationships come out and those rivalries get activated, when a person from one dojo fight a person from another dojo, and they both represent like a set of learnings that they've gained, either not even just in their own personal like sparring space, but like through traveling even across the nation and stuff like that, and seeing how they've stuck up against other types of styles not within that own fight, right? And so like I think that those narratives are also interesting to me, because I think they not only do they do a lot for the two different arcades or dojos that are playing against each other, but I think like when you have a wide enough audience, you have people examining the fight, they're trying to pick it apart, so whenever they have to fight the victor of that, they have to learn something themselves, but they're also like there's this idea of like, did you hear, blankety blank person for blankety blank from XY arcade lost to the dude from YZ arcade, right? I think those narratives will also like, because then you have a whole community of people that are pissed.
Yeah.
It becomes a whole community.
It becomes larger than the individual. Like you're not just doing it for yourself. You're doing it for, your friends that are maybe not as, or like your counterparts at that, from that dojo that maybe aren't as skilled or didn't get the opportunity to get that far, but they helped you get to where you're at, and like your people that taught you and were there for you and supportive, and it becomes bigger than you. It becomes you just taking the mantle or being a representative for the community that you come from.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's bro. It reminds me of like one of my, I guess probably the most prevalent rivalry that I grew up with. Like when I was young, it was really pushed to try to be a fan of baseball, but I'm not really a big fan. But I was like practically bred to be a New York Yankees fan, and the New York Yankees have this very historic rivalry against the Boston Red Sox.
Yeah.
And it started. Do you know the story of how that started?
No, I do not know the story. Dude,
it's the curse of the Great Bambino. And basically, the Boston Red Sox had this really good outfielder on their team. His name, I don't know if you've heard of him. His name is Babe Ruth.
Oh, man. I don't know. I think it eludes me a little bit, but definitely sounds like someone I might have some history with, yeah.
Yeah, he's like the Michael Jordan of baseball. He's like, this guy is arguably the greatest baseball player to ever live, one of the greatest athletes to ever live. And the Boston Red Sox sold Babe Ruth, or traded Babe Ruth to the New York Yankees. And there was talks that it was for like the owner to like pay off like debts that they had and stuff like that, and that's why he traded him. You know what I mean? It wasn't even to get like other players or anything. It was literally to like pay off personal debts. And dude, the Boston Red Sox. First off, Babe Ruth became on the New York Yankees one of the greatest athletes of all time, leading into so many championships. And on top of that, it created this curse in the city of Boston, where they didn't win for something like, dude, this happened in like, I want to get actual dates, but what's it called? Boston Red Sox curse. They didn't win until like 2004. And right. It was an 86-year period from 1918 to 2004, and it's superstitious as fuck, man. If anybody that knows me knows I'm pretty superstitious, but people took that curse very seriously. And every single time that the Boston Red Sox and the New York Yankees would play, it was a very, very heated game. Fights would break out, not just amongst like players, but also the teams themselves in the middle of games, and it was a lot.
I mean, I think there's also there's team versus team, there's person versus person, but sometimes there's like things like a rivalry. Like I think of Michael Jordan in his prime, and I think that obviously if you were a Chicago, if you were a Bulls fan at the time, like you were rooting for Michael to keep playing, and you wanted to see him win more and more championships, right? But and I'm not sure if this was true at the time, because this is before I was born, right? When that whole thing went down. But I wouldn't be surprised if there was a huge facet of NBA fans that just wanted to see him defeated, just to bring on a new era of the game, right? I think that's a pretty common I think that it sets up this narrative of and you can, if you haven't seen The Last Dance, highly suggest it. Like, it's a great documentary about that period of time in Jordan's life and the whole teams for that matter. I think that it set up a thing for Michael himself where like he continued to want to show that he can't be defeated easily, right? I'm not sure if I would define it as narcissism or anything like that, but it became more of a thing where he became man versus a society of fans almost, right?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, like I don't even think we have to look that far from MJ. Like I think LeBron James goes through the same thing, and right
now, yeah. I mean, I've been that person. I like MJ's legacy a lot, but like I've definitely shit talked LeBron James a lot when I was younger. I don't watch the NBA as much as I used to, but like
you might have shit talked MJ if you were back then, bro.
I who knows? I have a weird thing where I think we've talked about this before, where I have a really big respect for people like
The underdog.
I think well, underdog I like a lot. Obviously, I think an underdog is a fan favorite, right? But I think I have this weird admiration for legacy. Like I really like when you become a component of history in some way, shape, or form, even if it's at a local level, right? Like it doesn't even have to be a big component of history, but like Magic the Gathering has this, for example, for me, where like the game is constantly evolving and sometimes even re-iterating on its past selves. But I respect that thing. It's the same idea behind like when we were talking about the games for like the games we really respected from last generation. I really pointed toward games that looked back on themselves because I think that I think there's this rivalry between current society and historical society. And I think we're not listening to the things that are being painted in front of us.
Yeah. I would agree with that. But it's one of those things where you only see that, you know, in hindsight, right? Like hindsight's 2020, and you're able to legacy. I feel like it's almost a hard thing to see as it's starting. You know, it becomes a much clearer thing to see like towards the end. Like if you watch The Last Dance, you see that in the beginning when Michael Jordan first joined the team, like, yo, he was an incredible athlete at that point, and he's like, yo, I'm gonna bring championships to the city. But like the Chicago Bulls were nothing back then, and it was like I mean, yo, like, all right, whatever, bro. Like it's hard to see it at that beginning, but then as time goes on, it's just like, dude, it just becomes clearer and clearer. It's like, yo, this is gonna be something.
And I think the Michael Jordan's internal rivalry of wanting to be the best, right? Like I think because like I remember that part of the documentary. He talks about how like a lot of his team members were like, I guess I don't want to call them schlubs, but they kind of were like.
Hold on. He had a great supporting cast, bro. Like,
no, I'm not talking about Endgame. I'm talking about like this is when he first joined the team.
Oh, when he first joined, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because he talks a lot about how like these are like the NBA was in a different state, right? Like it's that thing again where Michael Jordan's rivalry with himself ended up being a rivalry with like it ended in essence with him like building a team, and it became the Chicago Bulls rivalry against the rest of the NBA to be dethroned at one point, and it elevated the game, right? Because like MJ talks a lot about how the teams at the time that were coming in, like the type of people that were playing basketball, were obviously all great athletes. Don't get me wrong, right? But there were also some people that weren't taking care of themselves. He talked about like the first phase of Bulls that he joined were people that were like openly drinking and smoking, which I mean, nothing wrong with that. But he's talking about like before and during practices and stuff like that. Like there was no discipline to it.
Yeah. It's interesting too. Like you said something. You said that it was Michael Jordan against the NBA, and
yeah,
it's interesting when you reach a certain level of, you know, of aptitude, and excel to a certain point. You might not have that rival, right? And it's interesting where it's like you probably have a lot of people in that era that their personal rival was Michael Jordan. You know, your Charles Barkley's and
Magic
right?
Johnson, like. I mean,
well,
even
he's a little before, but like as far as like that was the person for them to beat, and for MJ, it was just like, bro, like he maybe didn't have that rival, like he didn't have that. He had it within himself, and everybody had him as his personal rival. So it was MJ against the fucking NBA.
Even if you like all those interviews, like again, Last Dance is just a good kind of almost like a character study of this type of a thing, because like Scottie Pippen and like all the other guys would talk about how like it became a thing where like if it was practice time and you weren't up to snuff, and like Michael was sensing that in you, he's gonna become your rival for that practice by constantly trying to push you to like bring out whatever's inside of you, and because he needed that, he wanted to squeeze the fresh lemons out of he wanted to squeeze that juice out of every single one of his teammates, because like that's what he thought it would take to get to the top. And I can't argue with the formula, right? Like you can't argue, like the results are there, right? Like he did do it. I mean, did it cost him some like image and some other stuff? I mean, for sure, right? But like there's no denying the fact that like his method of basically antagonizing everyone, excluding probably Phil Jackson, who kind of like let it happen in some ways, and like used it as a tool to improve like the lessons he was doling out while coaching, like those things, like it's kind of a lonely world in some aspects, right? I think I've seen some sports oriented like shows and stuff tackle that element of being the individual versus like everyone, to the point where you know you're excelling, or you know you're promoting healthy growth in the industry you're part of, but it's costing you literal friendship or relationships with everyone else around you.
It's not just also what it costs you, but also I think also what it costs those around you, right? Like yeah, the friendships. I feel like the breaking of the friendships in your own personal like striving for that, and it's like, yeah, it'll cost you friendships, but I think it'll cost you friendships because what it cost those people around you to be close to you and to be in the wake of you doing that, right? Like,
and participate in that not only participate in the rivalry itself, but participate in the growth that resulted from it. Like it costs time. It cost like that's the type of commodity you'll never get back, right?
Or like, yo, like I don't know, man, like mental, like on the mental, right? Like what is it? What does it cost other people when you're getting, when it gets to the point that it's abuse? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it could be that. And I think core to a lot of this discussion is what healthy rivalry looks like and what unhealthy rivalry looks like, right? Like there's many examples of great rivalries, right? Like, you know, like on the corporate world, you know, Coke and Pepsi, right? Like they're not, it's good thing that the other one exists because it pushes the other one to continue and try to excel themselves, right? You know, your Nikes and Adidas, like they're not going out there and like assassinating each other. They're just using each other to kind of see like, oh damn, they innovated there, we're gonna innovate here. And it's this constant motivation to continue to push forward and trudge forward and motivate, you know, the people that are there, and to give them a something to point at, you know, like something to point at and be like, yo, like that's the bad guy, we're gonna beat them and we're gonna do better than that, and because, you know, we are this, right? And pushes them for it. But there's also like a level where it just becomes obsessive.
well, I mean, if we're talking about corporate rivalry and like competition and like that space, like I think it's gotten to the point where, like, you were talking about how like the cost for Michael Jordan's rivalry for him to overcome that thing and become, you know, I guess one of a GOAT of the NBA, greatest of all time. It cost him, you know, relationships and mental stress for himself, for his teammates, even for Phil Jackson, their coach, and stuff like that. I think when we look at it from a corporate level, the costs become things like the ever increasing want to become more efficient, or to make a higher dollar value, or to increase your stock price or whatever, has turned itself into this exploitation of labor in third world countries, like that kind of a thing, right? Like the cost for those things has gotten also a little ridiculous if we think about it.
Yeah, for sure. It's just it's what it'll do to a person, right? Like what level will that take you to?
It's that whole, I think it's that whole, like, it's part of that whole thing, like Harvey Dent says it in The Dark Knight, right? You either live long enough to see yourself become a villain, or you die a hero, kind of a thing. I don't think it's that extreme, but like I think there's a sense of it where like you either participate in a rivalry long enough to like overcome it and like find what you're looking for inside of it, or like, you know, it could get to the point where it's pushed too far, or you can quit too early. Right, like it's a little more complicated, right?
But I think it's also like a respect and almost a compassion for that. Mm-hmm. They're saying that. I remember there's this poem back in the day where it was like, it was almost like a love poem, but written from the aspect of a boxer, and it's dude, you're getting to the ring and you're gonna beat the shit out of somebody, and that's your motivation. I'm gonna fuck you up to the point that you are sleeping on the ground. But after you're done, it's like, yo, it's a hug, it's a dude, I love you. Like it's a yo, like this isn't a rage directed at you as an individual. Like I love you because, yo, you're passionate at this as much as I am, and you gave me a hell of a fucking fight. But it's like it has to be that healthy form of rivalism. Like it's an admiration. There's a story that when Steve Jobs was on his deathbed, He he got a letter from Bill Gates that Bill Gates was like, yo, like, you should be really proud of everything you did. And
damn,
and
brother,
that you
lost a
achieved with
real
Apple.
one. Sorry, bro. Good luck in wherever you go from here, my man. I'll pour one out for you, homie.
Straight up, bro, in his ways. And yo, like, and Steve Jobs apparently kept that by his side, that letter by his side, you know, as he was passing. And it was like, it's that like, yo, like, we were fucking heated, but fuck, like, you took like acknowledgement of, yo, I see the hard work you're doing in the same thing that I'm trying to do. And that's a healthy form of it.
I mean, like, as we're kind of ramping down this conversation, I think it's important to talk about what rivalry we see in each other. Because I mean, like we play a lot of fighting games together. Obviously, even like I think as developers, we're trying to challenge each other to come up with better and better ideas on a daily basis, right? But I think I think we wanted to talk about this because when it comes to our personal experiences, that like our rivalry has definitely asked both of us to kind of excel in whatever thing that we were trying to accomplish, right? Like if it's a fighting game, it's like always trying to one up each other, or like at least get a decent match out of each other, if nothing else.
Hell yeah, bro.
If it's our career, it's the idea to keep pushing in since we're in two different disciplines, it's to keep pushing into our own discipline to keep making sure that we're matching each other. So when we want to work together, we know that we're both like excellently defined, bona fide developers, right? Like,
yeah, it's that constant check because it's like, yo, like, you want to see each other be the best that they could be, and in that there's that healthy competition of like, yo, I did this, what you up to, right? Like, and it's that it's exactly that. It's healthy, and I feel that every single time, bro. I got you know, the fight stick, and we're sitting down, we're gonna play some fighting game. It's like, bro, start the trash talking, start the fucking new techniques, the like, yo, what the fuck, all of those moments, they're all there because, you know, we're pushing each other to be better, you know, than we are before, so that we can excel together and we can enjoy that journey together, and we can reach that level of expertise to a point that we can both enjoy it as equals, right? Yeah, it's good. That's good. Yeah, be good to your rivals, man. Be good to your rivals. Acknowledge them. Acknowledge the challenge that they present to you as something that is as beneficial to your life, and something that if honed correctly, can really push you to be the best version of you.
And if you haven't found one yet, it can be anybody, right? It doesn't have to be someone that you already have an antagonistic relationship with. Try to find it in your friends. Try to find out what things that make you compete against each other are, that help you both as individuals.
And really look into yourself of like, yo, what's that thing, you know? I told you to close your eyes and think about what that passion is. What's that thing that makes you tick, and just hone in on that self, and really spend the time to push that as far as you can, till you get to the point where you do have a platform, and they will appear. There will be somebody that's out there that's just as passionate as you are, and they could be that goalpost for you.
And like Pokemon Gold has taught us, your rival can just be you from the past, a stronger version of yourself that maybe you found before you had to reset.
Yeah. Hell yeah. In the words of Papa Wu, rest in peace. If you don't know who you were, baby, you sure as hell don't know where you're going.
Oh, where you're going? Yeah. yeah.
Ramblations.
All right. Like always, ladies and gents, it's time for dope shit to check out. Do you want to lead, or do you want me to lead?
Go ahead, Dave.
I've just been slapping through HBO Max. I was curious about how bad Wonder Woman is, because I like watching movies and I hadn't seen a bad one in a while. So I was like, all right, a lot of people talking mad smack. Let's go see what it is. But what ended up happening was I got to watch a lot of other HBO stuff. And I think like I just finished Lovecraft Country, which it's really good. Like I was telling Amelia before, there's a lot of fucking on that show. So, you know,
If you miss
Be
early
careful.
Game of Thrones,
Yeah, yeah. There's that. And then I think it's just like they comment on a lot of race issues, and like that and Watchmen both came out during like this past year, I think, when when racial tensions have been heated for the past couple years in America, and so like I think it does a good job of showing events that were not written as well in history textbooks, right? Because like I think we commented on it before, but like I like this show also does like talks about the Tulsa race riots in 1921, and Watchmen starts with that, and so like it's just like something that I didn't read about in a history book until now, and so it was just like it's cool to see it's cool to see television going for like newer angles and like trying to push back onto history what some other people seem to be afraid to do.
yeah. If you've never heard of the event that he was talking about, look up Black Wall Street up on Wikipedia and give that a look. It's one of the only events it's one of 3 right now of events of Americans bombing themselves. So yeah, check it out. My dope shit to check out. I think it's gonna be the band Black Pumas. Black Pumas came out with their debut album. Like I think in the last 1 or 2 years. It's called Black Pumas, self-titled. And this is a project that was by a man from California who honed his skills, literally like playing on the street and getting money from it. And this person left everything and was basically a wandering musician to try to find his band. Some Tenacious D type shit. He's got to find the other half. And found his way into Austin, where he was also playing on the street, and met another musician, and they found magic, and they found this. They formed this band called Black Pumas. They, during their debut, they were nominated for the Grammy for best new artist,
Nice.
and best new band. But they're really great. Song I recommend, Colors, is a beautiful song. Yeah, that record is probably one of my defining records of 2020. So highly recommend you to check it out.
But yeah, listener, we're still working on trying to get some. We're trying to get some. We upgraded our tech a little. We're trying to make sure to reorganize ourselves and deliver you content on time, and make sure it's some good shit to listen to. So hopefully we've been your dope shit to check out. And on that, make sure to, if you're on YouTube and stuff, make sure to use all the platform mechanics like liking, retweet our tweets and stuff like that. If you see our shit on Instagram, like those posts and stuff. Wherever you follow us or listen to us, make sure to leave us a review if you can, or if you're on Spotify, make sure to follow us or whatever you need to do there. But yeah,
we love you. We love you.
Episode 7?
Episode 6.
Oh right, episode
6.
Episode
We love you.
6. We'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Ramblations.